The Browns tanked the 2016 season for a top draft pick. In 2016, the Cleveland Browns were beyond bad. They were historically bad. They went 1-15, losing games in every possible way. Missed field goals, dropped passes, blown leads, the works. But some fans and analysts didn't see it as incompetence. They saw it as intentional. The theory goes that the Browns deliberately built a roster designed to lose, all to secure the number 1 overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. Under general manager Sashi Brown, the team stripped away veterans, stockpiled future draft picks, and focused on long-term flexibility, a strategy that looks suspiciously like tanking. When they finished 1-15, Cleveland didn't fire its head coach, Hugh Jackson. Instead, they doubled down on the rebuild. The following spring, they drafted Myles Garrett first overall, the kind of player you only get by finishing dead last. To some, it was smart management. To others, it was proof that the Browns intentionally sacrificed an entire season. The franchise denied it, but the results spoke for themselves. A lost year, a top draft pick, and the start of a new era. Was it a conspiracy or just creative rebuilding? Either way, the Browns' 2016 season remains the textbook case of how to tank without ever admitting it. Tom Brady's secret concussions. In May 2017, one of the strangest NFL conspiracy theories gained traction, and it came not from an anonymous fan forum, but from Tom Brady's own household. Brady's wife, Gisele Bündchen, said in an interview that her husband had suffered multiple concussions during his career, including one during the 2016 season. The revelation shocked the football world because Brady had never once appeared on the Patriots' official injury report for a concussion. Not that year, not any year. That's where the conspiracy theory begins. According to skeptics, the New England Patriots, long accused of bending the rules to keep their stars on the field, covered up Brady's concussion history. The idea is simple. Brady was too valuable to miss games, especially during the Patriots' championship window. By not reporting his concussions, the team allegedly flouted NFL rules and kept him playing. The theory gained steam because of New England's history. From Spygate to Deflategate, the Patriots had already been punished for cheating scandals. To many fans, hiding Brady's injuries fit right into the narrative of a franchise that would do whatever it took to win. The NFL denied any wrongdoing, saying they had no evidence of concealed concussions. Brady himself never confirmed Gisele's claims, brushing off questions whenever the topic came up. But the damage was done. Once the idea of hidden concussions entered the conversation, fans couldn't unsee it. Whether it was truth or exaggeration, the theory stuck. If Tom Brady had concussions that were never reported, it wouldn't just be a Patriots problem. It would be a league-wide problem, undermining the NFL's entire concussion protocol system. The Seahawks' mysterious play call, Super Bowl 49. Few plays in NFL history have sparked more conspiracy theories than Seattle's final offensive snap in Super Bowl 49. The Seahawks were at the 1-yard line, trailing the Patriots by 4, with just 26 seconds left. They had Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch in the backfield, one of the most unstoppable short yardage runners in football. Everyone expected a handoff. Instead, Seattle called a slant pass. Russell Wilson threw it, and Malcolm Butler of the Patriots intercepted it, sealing New England's win. Immediately, fans around the world asked the same question: why pass? That's where the conspiracy theory was born. Some believe the NFL influenced the call. The reasoning: Marshawn Lynch, famously uncooperative with media, would almost certainly have been Super Bowl MVP if he scored. Instead, Russell Wilson was seen as the face of the franchise and a more marketable champion. By calling a pass play, the theory goes, Seattle had a chance to make Wilson the hero and keep Lynch out of the spotlight. Skeptics also point to how unusual the decision was. Coaches almost always run in that scenario, especially with an elite power back. Even Patriots defenders admitted afterward they expected a handoff. Of course, Pete Carroll and Seattle's staff have always defended the call as a football decision. They argued that with only one timeout left, they wanted to save a rushing attempt for later if necessary. But for conspiracy theorists, the explanation never rang true. To this day, Super Bowl 49 lives in NFL lore, not only as one of the greatest games ever played, but as the stage for one of its most enduring what-ifs. The 25-point comeback, too good to be true? Super Bowl 51 gave us one of the most unforgettable games in NFL history. The Atlanta Falcons led the New England Patriots 28-3 late in the third quarter. The game looked over. No team had ever come back from more than 10 points in a Super Bowl, and yet Tom Brady and the Patriots staged an impossible rally, scoring 31 unanswered points to win 34-28 in overtime. For most fans, it was the ultimate lesson in not counting out Brady and Belichick. But for conspiracy theorists, the comeback was too perfect. The theory is that the NFL wanted a dramatic storyline, the greatest quarterback of all time mounting the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. Some versions even went further, pointing to Brady's personal connection with then-President Donald Trump. The speculation, the league or higher powers influenced the outcome to deliver Brady and the Patriots another title, cementing his legacy with a storybook finish. Fans who buy into the theory point to Atlanta's bizarre collapse, conservative play calling, blown assignments, and the infamous sack on Matt Ryan that pushed the Falcons out of field goal range when one kick might have iced the game. To skeptics, it looked less like bad luck and more like a script. Of course, the reality is simpler. New England executed perfectly while Atlanta melted under the pressure. But because of how unlikely the comeback was, the conspiracy lives on. For believers, 28-3 wasn't just a choke job. It was proof that maybe, just maybe, the NFL wanted its most marketable dynasty to have the most marketable win.
Covering up star PEDs.
One of the longest-running conspiracy theories in the NFL doesn't focus on a single game or player, but on the league itself. The theory claims that the NFL is selective in how it enforces performance-enhancing drug PED rules, punishing fringe players publicly while sweeping superstar cases under the rug. The argument is built on patterns. Every season, fans hear about backup linemen or special teamers getting suspended for 4 games after failing a test. But it's far rarer to see MVP-caliber names show up on those lists. Conspiracy theorists believe that's not a coincidence. They argue the league has too much money tied up in stars, too much marketing power invested in players like quarterbacks and record-setting receivers, to risk tarnishing their images. Fueling the speculation is the secrecy of the NFL's testing program. While the league says all players are subject to random testing, the process is controlled behind closed doors, and results are rarely made public beyond the official suspensions. For skeptics, that lack of transparency leaves a room for doubt, especially when great players maintain peak performance deep into their 30s, something that seems biologically rare without some kind of enhancement. The NFL has repeatedly denied any kind of favoritism, insisting that the testing system is independent and applies equally to everyone. But conspiracy theorists point to the financial incentive. Would the league really want a Super Bowl week derailed because its biggest star was suspended? Whether you believe it or not, the idea that the NFL protects its stars is a theory that won't go away, in part because every time a role player gets suspended while a star never does, the conspiracy feels like it has just a little more weight. The fix is in. The NFL is scripted entertainment. This is the big one. The conspiracy that ties together almost every suspicious call, every bizarre storyline, and every too-perfect moment in NFL history. The theory is simple. The NFL doesn't just allow drama, it creates it. Proponents believe that games are manipulated behind the scenes, not unlike professional wrestling. The idea is that referees, officials, or even coaches subtly influence outcomes to maximize TV ratings, protect marquee players, and keep storylines alive. Want a big market team deep in the playoffs? A few favorable calls can make it happen. Need a Cinderella story for ratings? A questionable penalty can extend a drive. The theory gained mainstream attention thanks to author Brian Tuohy, who's written extensively about sports leagues allegedly fixing games. According to believers, the NFL isn't really about pure competition. It's about entertainment, where the product is as carefully curated as a TV drama. Supporters point to examples like the Tuck Rule game, 2002, where Tom Brady's fumble was controversially ruled an incomplete pass, launching the Patriots dynasty. Super Bowl 40, 2006, where even neutral fans criticized the officiating as one-sided toward Pittsburgh. The Saints' blown pass interference call, 2018 NFC Championship, which some believe was engineered to push the Rams into the LA Super Bowl for market value. Of course, the NFL denies any hint of scripting. Referees are full-time professionals now, and the league insists the drama comes from competition, not choreography. Still, the timing of certain calls and the uncanny storylines keep fueling suspicion, whether it's blown calls, miracle comebacks, or two perfect endings. This theory lives on because it explains what every disappointed fan sometimes feels. That maybe, just maybe, the outcome was bigger than the players on the field. The Bert Emanuel rule. Before the Tuck rule, or the infamous missed pass interference in 2018, there was the Bert Emanuel catch, one of the earliest sparks for NFL conspiracy theorists about officiating and league motives. It happened in the 1999 NFC Championship game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the St. Louis Rams. Late in the fourth quarter, Tampa Bay trailed 11-6, but was driving with a chance to win. Wide receiver Bert Emanuel appeared to make a clutch catch near midfield. He secured the ball, went to the ground, and rolled over. But replay showed the tip of the ball grazing the turf, even though Emanuel had full control. Officials overturned the call, ruling it incomplete. The drive stalled, Tampa lost, and the Rams, dubbed the greatest show on turf, advanced to the Super Bowl. That's where the conspiracy began. Buccaneers fans, and many neutrals, believed the NFL didn't want a low-scoring, grinded-out Bucs team in the Super Bowl. They wanted the high-flying Rams, who were more exciting for TV and marketing. The call, they argue, was the league's way of ensuring the right team advanced. Adding fuel to the theory, the NFL clarified the catch rule after the season, essentially admitting the Emanuel play would have been ruled a catch under updated rules. To conspiracy theorists, that looked like a cover-up after the fact. To this day, the Bert Emanuel rule remains one of the most debated officiating controversies in NFL history, and a go-to example for fans, convinced the league sometimes nudges outcomes in favor of better storylines. We're sorry, Super Bowl 37. Super Bowl 37, played in January 2003, wasn't just Tampa Bay's first championship. To conspiracy theorists, it was a carefully staged make good by the NFL. The game featured the Buccaneers against the Oakland Raiders, two franchises with recent grudges against the league. Just a few years earlier, Tampa had been knocked out of the playoffs in the controversial 1999 NFC Championship, the infamous Bert Emanuel catch game. Around the same time, Oakland had suffered through the Tuck rule in the 2001 playoffs, a call that swung momentum to the Patriots and launched a dynasty. By 2002, both fan bases felt wronged, and then suddenly, the two aggrieved teams ended up in the Super Bowl against each other. Some fans saw it as the league's way of repaying the debt, a setup dubbed the We're Sorry Super Bowl. The storyline was almost too perfect. The Raiders had just traded away head coach John Gruden to the Buccaneers in a rare coach-for-draft picks deal. The Bucs, now led by Gruden, dominated the very Raiders team he had built, winning 48-21. It felt scripted. The Bucs avenged their heartbreak. Gruden got revenge against his old team, and both franchises got closure in one tidy cinematic game. Of course, in reality, Tampa's defense was historically great and simply overwhelmed Oakland's offense. But the neatness of the storyline, two teams with conspiracy baggage facing off with a recently swapped coach, still fuels whispers that the NFL made sure this matchup happened. Two black coaches and a Manning orchestrated history. Super Bowl 41 in February 2007 was historic for more than just the game. It featured the first matchup between two African-American head coaches, Tony Dungy of the Colts and Lovie Smith of the Bears. And it finally delivered Peyton Manning his long-awaited first Super Bowl ring. To many fans, it was the perfect story. History made on the sidelines. A beloved quarterback finally silencing critics, and a showcase game for one of the league's most popular franchises. But for conspiracy theorists, it was too perfect. The theory suggests that the NFL orchestrated this outcome to push a powerful narrative. For decades, the league had faced criticism about the lack of black head coaches in leadership roles. By having two African-American coaches face off on the game's biggest stage, the NFL got to make history in a way that silenced some of those voices. On top of that, Peyton Manning had spent years being labeled as great but incomplete for never winning a championship. giving him his first ring in this matchup tied a neat bow around the storyline. Critics of the theory point out the obvious. Both teams were elite. The Colts were 12-4 with Manning at his peak, and the Bears had the NFL's best defense and a strong running game. They earned their way in. Still, the narrative was so tidy that skeptics insist the league benefited too much for it to be coincidence. In the end, Indianapolis won 29-17. Dungy became the first African-American head coach to win a Super Bowl, and Manning got the legacy-defining championship. To believers, it was a scripted milestone. To everyone else, it was simply the natural outcome of two great teams colliding. Collusion against Kaepernick. No NFL conspiracy theory has been debated more in the last decade than Colin Kaepernick's absence from the league. Once a rising star who led the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl appearance, Kaepernick found himself without a job after the 2016 season. The same year, he began kneeling during the national anthem to protest racial injustice and police brutality. The theory, shared by many fans and analysts, is that NFL owners conspired behind the scenes to keep him out of the league. Despite dozens of teams needing quarterbacks, Kaepernick never received a serious offer. He filed a grievance against the NFL in 2017, arguing that owners had colluded to blacklist him because of the political controversy surrounding his protests. Evidence supporting the theory includes leaked reports that owners discussed Kaepernick in private meetings, fears of backlash from fans, and political pressure, even from the White House. In 2019, the NFL reached a confidential settlement with Kaepernick and former teammate Eric Reid, who had joined the grievance. While the league never admitted wrongdoing, the settlement only fueled belief that collusion had occurred. Supporters say the numbers don't lie. Kaepernick's last full season, he threw 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. By talent alone, he was good enough to be a starter, or at least a backup. The fact that he hasn't played a down since 2016 is seen by many as proof of a coordinated effort to keep him out. For critics, it's less conspiracy and more business. Teams simply didn't want the media attention or controversy. But for those who believe in collusion, Kaepernick's case is one of the clearest examples of the NFL's owners aligning in silence to protect the league's image over a player's career. Headsetgate in Foxborough. By 2015, the New England Patriots already had a reputation. Spygate, Deflategate, and a long list of suspicions had cemented the idea that Bill Belichick's team was always pushing the limits of the rules. That's why, when the Pittsburgh Steelers faced New England in the 2015 season opener, and their coaching headsets suddenly went haywire, it felt like another chapter in the same book. Throughout the first half, Steelers coaches complained that their headsets were being flooded with the Patriots' own radio broadcast. Instead of play calls, they were hearing the local radio announcers. Communication between Pittsburgh's coaches and coordinators broke down, and the issue persisted until league officials intervened. The NFL quickly explained it away, blaming a stadium power issue caused by inclement weather. They insisted the Patriots had nothing to do with it. But for many fans, especially given New England's track record, the timing was just too suspicious. Why did this always seem to happen in Foxborough? Why did technical glitches so often benefit the home team? The Patriots denied wrongdoing, but conspiracy theorists have latched onto Headsetgate as proof that New England had tricks beyond just game planning. To this day, visiting teams still joke about expecting technical difficulties when playing at Gillette Stadium. Refs and Vegas, keeping games close. This conspiracy theory is as old as sports betting itself. The idea that NFL referees manipulate games to protect point spreads or keep matchups close for TV drama. The phrase Vegas knows has become shorthand among fans, a belief that somehow the odds makers and the referees are always in sync. The theory claims that officials use questionable penalties to extend drives, nullify big plays, or swing momentum in favor of whichever outcome benefits the betting line or television ratings. A late holding call, a mysterious pass interference, or a no call on a blatant foul can all feed the narrative that games are managed rather than purely played. Supporters of the theory point to games where suspicious officiating coincided with major swings in point spreads. They also note how the NFL's massive ties to gambling, including its more recent partnerships with sportsbooks, only deepen suspicion. After all, if billions of dollars are wagered every season, wouldn't there be pressure to make sure games stay interesting? The NFL and Referees Union strongly deny any such influence. Studies of penalty data haven't found systematic bias, and the league insists officiating mistakes are simply human error in a fast, complex game. Still, the timing of certain flags, especially in playoff games or primetime matchups, often fuels the chatter online. For believers, the argument is less about proving corruption and more about the feeling that games are nudged toward maximum drama. If Vegas odds always seem eerily accurate, conspiracy theorists argue, it's because referees help make sure they are. Locker room power out in 1994. Sometimes conspiracy theories don't need high stakes, just strange timing. One of the most peculiar came during the 1994 AFC divisional playoff game between the Miami Dolphins and San Diego Chargers. At halftime, the Dolphins returned to their locker room to find the lights had gone out. The power was completely down in their section of the stadium, forcing them to prepare for the second half in near darkness. The Chargers' locker room, meanwhile, had no such issue. The NFL explained it as a simple electrical glitch, but for Dolphins fans, it felt too convenient. Miami had controlled much of the first half, leading 21-6 at one point, before the Chargers stormed back to win 22-21. The suspicion? That someone in San Diego engineered the outage to rattle the Dolphins and tilt momentum in favor of the home team. There's no proof the Chargers were involved, and most dismiss it as coincidence. Still, the story has lived on in fan circles as one of the NFL's small conspiracies, a moment when outside factors may have influenced the outcome of a playoff game. Whether it was sabotage or bad wiring, the Dolphins never scored again after the blackout, and the Chargers advanced to their first and only Super Bowl. That timing is enough to keep the conspiracy alive. The Elway trade paranoia. The 1983 NFL Draft is remembered as one of the greatest quarterback classes in history. John Elway, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, and more. But it's also the centerpiece of a conspiracy theory that still lingers decades later. John Elway was drafted number 1 overall by the Baltimore Colts, but he refused to play for them. He threatened to play baseball for the New York Yankees instead, forcing the Colts' hand. Eventually, they traded him to the Denver Broncos, where he became a legend. Here's where the conspiracy comes in. Raiders owner Al Davis claimed the league's commissioner at the time, Pete Rozelle, deliberately blocked a deal that would have sent Elway to the Raiders. Davis was already in constant conflict with Rozelle and the league office, and he believed Rozelle conspired to keep his team from acquiring Elway. According to Davis, the Broncos' deal was orchestrated behind the scenes to ensure Elway didn't end up in silver and black. Rozelle denied the accusations, calling it controlled paranoia on Davis's part. But Davis never dropped the claim, and to this day, some Raiders fans still believe the NFL intervened to protect the balance of power. The theory suggests the league didn't want its most marketable young quarterback going to the Raiders, a franchise that already had a rebellious, villainous reputation. The Michael Sam draft deal. In 2014, Missouri defensive end Michael Sam made history as the first openly gay player to enter the NFL draft. His announcement was celebrated nationwide, and there was heavy media coverage leading up to draft weekend. But when the draft came, Sam slid all the way to the late 7th round, where the St. Louis Rams finally selected him. On the surface, it was a feel-good moment. Sam got drafted. The NFL could celebrate a milestone of inclusion, and the Rams became part of history. But almost immediately, conspiracy theories surfaced. The theory goes that the NFL wanted to ensure Sam was drafted no matter what. There were whispers that the league approached the Rams, who were a natural fit since Sam had played college ball nearby at Missouri, and encouraged them to pick him. Reports later speculated that the Rams may have been offered a benefit in exchange, specifically an exemption from being featured on HBO's Hard Knocks. The idea was that the NFL desperately wanted to avoid the PR disaster of Sam going undrafted and having to face questions about whether teams were avoiding him because of his sexuality. The Rams and the NFL denied any such deal. Team officials insisted they drafted Sam strictly on football value, noting he had been a productive college pass rusher. The timing and optics fueled suspicion. Even Sam himself later admitted he wondered whether his selection was motivated more by public relations than football. In the end, Sam's NFL career was short. He was cut after training camp, briefly spent time on practice squads, and later played in the CFL before retiring. But his draft day selection remains a flashpoint. To some, a symbol of progress, and to others, a carefully staged moment orchestrated by the league. The index card game. In December 2017, the Oakland Raiders and Dallas Cowboys played one of the strangest games in recent memory. With less than 5 minutes left, Dallas faced a critical 4th and 1 near midfield. The officials measured after Dak Prescott's sneak attempt, and the chains showed it was incredibly close. That's when referee Gene Steratore pulled an index card out of his pocket and slid it between the football and the chain to double-check the distance. The card just barely fit, and Steratore signaled first down for Dallas. The Cowboys went on to score, and the Raiders lost by 3. The moment instantly became conspiracy fuel. Fans argued that Steratore had essentially improvised a new rule on the fly, using a random card to justify giving Dallas the first down. Skeptics believed the league wanted the Cowboys, one of its most marketable franchises, to win a primetime December game with playoff implications. Steratore later laughed off the incident, saying the card was only a visual aid to show how close it was, and that the measurement had already been decided. Still, the image of a referee deciding a critical moment in an NFL game with a flimsy office supply became infamous. The secret salary cap of 2010. The 2010 NFL season came during a strange moment in league history because of labor disputes and collective bargaining agreement issues. That year was officially an uncapped season. In theory, that meant teams could spend as much money as they wanted on player contracts without restriction. Fans wondered if the richest franchises would go wild, building super teams. But that didn't happen. Spending stayed surprisingly restrained. That's where the conspiracy theory begins. According to the NFL Players Association, there was actually a secret salary cap in place, around $123 million per team. The claim was that owners quietly agreed among themselves not to overspend, essentially colluding to keep player salaries down. Washington and Dallas broke that gentleman's agreement by front-loading huge contracts during the uncapped year, taking advantage of what was supposed to be total freedom. The NFL later penalized both teams by stripping them of tens of millions in salary cap space for future years, citing that they violated the spirit of the rules. But to many, that punishment was proof of collusion. How could you break an unwritten rule unless there really was one? The NFLPA filed a collusion claim on behalf of the players, arguing that owners had illegally capped spending to save money at their expense. The case was eventually settled, but details were never fully disclosed, leaving conspiracy theorists convinced that the league secretly controlled the market even during its so-called uncapped year. 1946, the fixed championship plot. The idea that NFL games might be rigged isn't just a modern invention. One of the earliest proven scandals dates all the way back to the 1946 NFL championship. The New York Giants were set to play the Chicago Bears for the title when a bombshell dropped just 1 day before kickoff. 2 Giants players, running back Merle Hapes and quarterback Frank Filchock, were accused of being offered bribes by gamblers to throw the game. Hapes admitted he had been approached and offered money, but didn't accept. Filchock denied involvement and was still allowed to play. The Giants lost the game 24-14, and afterward, the scandal only grew. The gambler behind the bribe confessed to authorities, and both players were eventually suspended by the league. While Filchock continued his football career in Canada, Hapes never played in the NFL again. For conspiracy theorists, the 1946 case is more than just history. It's proof that gambling interests have been circling around football for nearly a century. Even though the plot was uncovered and punished, the fact that mobsters tried to fix the championship game itself shows how vulnerable the sport was, and perhaps still is, to outside influence. The league moved quickly to protect its image, and the scandal was quietly pushed aside in the years that followed. But it remains one of the earliest and clearest examples that NFL conspiracies aren't always fan paranoia. Sometimes they really happen.